Okay, here we have a 2011, and it's a Toyota Corolla. We're going to be changing the oil and the filter on it. Obviously, we lifted the car up on the lift, so you'll need to raise your vehicle any way you possibly can. The way you're going to drain the oil is you're going to take this plug out right here, which is fairly simple. Just take the plug out, and we're going to let it drain into a bucket. The problem we're going to have is that now they switched over on this particular car to a canister filter. So we need to unscrew this cap off of here, remove this off, replace the canister filter in the gasket, and screw it back in. So let me drain the oil out of it first, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how to remove this this canister filter. All right, so let me grab some tools. Break it loose. And then we're going to drain it out, and we'll let the whole thing drain out, and then we'll take that canister filter out. Okay, well, so while our oil is draining out, we're going to grab our tool to take the oil filter housing apart. Make sure you use the correct tool that goes over the top of this plastic housing to remove it. The worst thing you can do is use the tool that's not made for it. You wind up stripping it out, and then you're going to have a real big problem. So make sure you get the correct tool that fits on nice and tight, and then grab yourself a ratchet, and you can take the filter right out. Okay, so after you break the oil filter housing loose, you can take your tool out, and now you can rotate it out by hand. It comes out fairly easy until the filter gasket clears the housing, and then it's going to start to leak out, and then you want to let it just leak out a little bit so you don't make a mess. Make sure you have a bucket underneath there, and once it's finished draining out, you can just pull the entire housing out and pull the filter assembly or cartridge out. While that's draining, we're going to put our oil drain plug back in. Screw it in by hand. You never screw it in with anything except your hand. And then you tighten it up a little bit with the ratchet. Just snug it in, and you go just a little bit more. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to switch the filter. So now we have the filter actually fell right out of here when I tilted it, and we're going to take this O-ring off here. Take the O-ring off, and with the new filter comes a new O-ring, and you just slide the new O-ring into that groove that it just came out of. We take our new filter. Put the new filter in here like this, and then we screw it back in to the housing. Okay, and we just screw this back in here. Obviously you got to screw it in by hand because you're only screwing a plastic cap in. You don't want to screw it any other way except by hand. Tighten it down as far as you can by hand, and then we're going to use that cap to tighten it back on. Okay. And this is the cap that I used to screw it back on. And you screw it down until it doesn't go any further. Okay. And that's it. And the lock tab is locked in right where it belongs. Now what we're going to do is we'll wipe all the oil off underneath here. And then we're going to lower the car down. And we're going to put some oil back in the car. So let me lower it down, and I'll show you how that goes. Okay, now that we got the car down on the ground, before you put any oil in the car, you always want to make sure what it calls for. Most of the time it's written right on the oil cap itself, and in this case here it calls for the SAE 0WW20, which is the only kind of oil you want to use on this car. Alright, and the way you put it in is you just take the cap off, and we're going to get a funnel and we're going to put some oil in there. Now this particular car calls for 4.4 quarts of oil, so we're going to put in a little bit over 4 quarts, and then we'll put the cap on and start it up and make sure it's full to the proper level. This is a 5-quart jug, so we're not going to put the whole thing in, but as you can see, it's 0W20, and we're going to put the cap back on. We'll start the car up, and then we'll check the level to make sure it's full. If we need to add to it, then obviously we will. You just have to start it up and let it run for a couple of seconds. Then we'll just let it sit for a minute, let the oil go back down, and then we're going to pull our stick out and we'll check the level to make sure that it's full. And you pull it out and check the level, and now it's right up to the full mark as it's supposed to be. Alright, make sure your dipstick is in, the cap is back on. Obviously look underneath the car to make sure that there's no leaks whatsoever, and that's it, you're all set. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Okay, so now that we're finished with the oil and filter change, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come up underneath the hood here, and we're going to open up our air filter, and we're going to replace it with a new one. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to just pretty much open up these clips here, and down in the back right here, and we're going to lift this up and back slightly, and then up out of the way so we can get the filter out. So let me get started on it and you can watch what I do. And we pop the clips open here. And we pop the clip open there. Lift this up slightly. And you just hold it up a little bit and pull the filter out. Remember how you took the filter out, because you got to put it back in the same way. You know, as you notice, the corners are rounded on this filter here, and this is square. So you have to put the filter back in the exact same way that you took it out, otherwise you're not going to get it to close up. Alright, so you take the filter down and just put the filter back inside here. And you may have to play around a little bit to get it in there. In flat the way it came out. I'll show you real quick. Okay, make sure the filter is in where it belongs, here and there. Okay. And you just have to make sure when you put this back in place down here that you put this here, these little clips here have to go back underneath in the bottom right here where they belong. So you're going to lift it up, slide it in, and then put the nose back down. So okay, slide the bottom in, push it closed, and lock the lock here, and lock the lock on there, and that's it. Alright, so again, make sure you're in over here, locked in place there. It's underneath the latch where it belongs, and you lock these two pieces up right here, and you make sure none of your electrical connectors came off, and that's it. Fairly simple. Alright, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.